Centre in London, inspiring and guiding internal and external shareholders in their mission, maritime safety. And Louise is going to speak on learning from the past.
Well, hello everyone, and today I'm here to launch our Learning from the Past programme and to invite others to join us, and it'd be wonderful if the Maritime Museum want to engage with the programme that we're talking about today. But what do I mean by learning from the past? Is it not happening already? Of course it's something that we do all the time, but what we're highlighting is that there is so much disjointed activity, silos of excellent research and action and ideas, and what's needed is a push to work together, to join up thinking from across the cultural sector, across industry, academia and policymakers. And what we'd love to do is harness the energy of museum experts and their audiences in a united call to action. In doing so, we can mobilise our resources toward a collective purpose. And the Learning from the Past programme aims to help us all in better understanding and sharing our heritage to inform a safer, more sustainable world. As we've heard today, climate change, ocean acidification, plastic pollution, there are so many things happening in the world that may well feel out of our control. The volume of goods transported by sea is greater than ever. New maritime industries such as offshore, renewable energy are growing rapidly. All of this increasing stress on the ocean environment and the risk of displacement of coastal communities, particularly in the developing world. It's vital for us to understand how we can create a safe, just and sustainable ocean. We believe learning from the past can help to tackle this complex and urgent challenge. Tangible evidence like remains of coastal settlements, shipwrecks and historical records tell us a story about our past interactions with the ocean and how current assumptions and attitudes have been shaped. Intangible evidence, cultural practices, local skills, traditional knowledge can all represent a very different source of insight and new perspectives on sustainable futures. Learning from the past, or LFP for short, is nothing new. It's not a new idea. A lot of great work has already been done. But we believe that by building on existing partnerships and working with new partners, we can bring evidence and insight to the attention of those that can make change happen. We've heard a bit today about ocean citizens. We want to develop new activities that will broaden engagement and increase impact, inspiring a new generation of ocean citizens. Our LFP programme will engage with all types of evidence about past endeavours. We'll do this by working on international cross-disciplinary projects, working with custodians of traditional knowledge, mindful always of the need to seek out evidence associated with groups that are underrepresented or excluded from conventional narratives on our maritime past. Collaboration is the key. And the inspiration behind starting this project was the energy of my colleagues, conversations around the idea that hindsight could be applied to better understand past innovation and technological change. But why us? Why the Lloyd Register Foundation? And I'd like to show you a quick video about what we do. So hopefully at the back, if you could play that one, please. Thank you. So I'll talk a little bit more about the programme, and since its creation as a Marine Classification Society in 1760, Lloyd's Register has been deeply involved in all of the key maritime engineering transitions, and in making sure that change happens safely, the organisation's accumulated a vast sum of knowledge, and now we want to draw on that heritage to help ensure a safe and sustainable future. The history of technological change is evident throughout our collections, including our recently digitised ship plan and survey report collection, which is 1.2 million items freely available online. And through our Heritage and Education Centre, we want to demonstrate the economic value of safety, the effectiveness of interventions, and the practical impact of previous interventions. And we're well placed to help to coordinate this type of activity and to invest funds in it and to bring it to the attention of others. The emphasis is on safety and sustainability. If it's not safe, it's not sustainable. And this is a critical decade for accelerating the maritime energy transition. A major challenge is ensuring the viability of zero-emission ships to meet the 2030 emission targets set by the International Maritime Organization. And we work with the Lloyd's Register Maritime Decarbonisation Hub, established to help the shipping industry understand energy alternatives and to manage the safety risks involved. They work with designers, builders, owners, ports, charterers, fuel producers, finance houses. LFP can add value to this agenda by creating and sharing evidence, by engaging decision makers with insights about previous transitions. The race for sustainable shipping drives a rethink in the way that shipping is run, its role in the broader supply chain, the skills needed to make the transition successful, and the financing of a technological revolution. But what are the real costs that the industry must negotiate? And what else needs to be considered in this transition that might otherwise be overlooked? LFP, by linking up thought leaders in industry with those in the cultural heritage sector, will form a vital linchpin to ensure future sustainability of the oceans is not compromised. We can highlight potential opportunities and risks of pathways to regulatory and policy change by adding to the understanding of what has worked and what has not worked in the past. Let's think, for example, about the impact on ports, not just in isolation, but in a much wider context. There's a plethora of social and practical considerations needed when change is made to port infrastructure, affecting local communities, their hinterlands and beyond. At COP26 last year, 19 nations agreed to set up green maritime corridors, specific routes starting with the inter-Asia container trade that will be decarbonised throughout, from ships right through to land-based infrastructure. Many of these ports will be historically significant. What impact will expansion have on cultural heritage, on land, along the shore, and out at sea? What impact will the shipping routes have on aquaculture, on underwater cultural heritage, and on marine protected areas? We want to learn by studying local conditions and bringing them to the attention of decision makers. Through stakeholder mapping and engagement with partners, the LFP programme will encompass an international network of relevant historians and policymakers across the public, private and third sectors, as well as campaign groups and other opinion formers. As individuals, we may feel powerless to make a difference, but we can. Every piece of information, no matter how small, can add up to a bigger picture, building the evidence base, creating engaging stories, influencing people to think about the shared ocean space in different ways. We can achieve more by working together. So how does LFP work in practice? Let's look at another case study. Seaweed. There's a rapid expansion of the seaweed industry in the developing world, particularly Asia. Seaweed is the fastest growing food production sector with potential to improve public health and food security, alleviate poverty, renew marine ecosystems, and mitigate climate change. The Foundation is working with the Safe Seaweed Coalition to ensure that environmental and occupational safety are at the forefront of scale-up efforts. This requires collection of new data, as well as close attention to historic experience and the knowledge of coastal communities. As such, the Coalition already utilise and embrace an LFP approach. Our ambition is to build a new citizen science project calling for contributions from ICM members and their audiences to help build this evidence base further. Regional museums that have holdings related to seaweed and coastal industry through the LFP approach can help us to engage with local coastal communities, bringing together cultural knowledge and new perspectives on a much larger scale. What do you have in your collections and through your wider communities about the aquaculture industries that could feed into a project like this? Such collaborations can open up new dialogues, they can generate compelling case studies, and they can attract new audiences. Promoting projects like this can help to increase levels of ocean literacy in museum audiences, mobilising ocean citizens to engage with complex issues. Even if visitors just buy a seaweed product in your gift shop or are encouraged to participate in a citizen science project like Old Weather Data on Zooniverse, they can feel empowered in some way that they are taking action and making a difference. We're planning a range of collaborative projects to create impact routes to get people involved. We want to have an inspiring body of collateral in the form of videos, animations, exhibitions, podcasts. By sharing our resources, we can enable institutions, whatever their size or location, to launch LFP outreach content with a consistent and a compelling narrative. Our current partners include the Ocean Foundation, which is working to help shape and expand the programme to coastal and marine community stakeholders and to other potential investors. We already fund a Hindsight Perspectives grant at History and Policy and support the Museum of London's Archaeology Citizen programme, as well as the new Cultural Heritage Framework of the Ocean Decade Heritage Network. We'll also continue to work with the Maritime Digital Hub, with the National Maritime Museum in Greenwich, with the Global Association for Transition Engineering, and with many others. And we also invite you, the members and maritime museums here today, to mobilise as a core partner of learning from the past. We believe with your global membership and the shared aims that we have to provide leadership at a critical moment in the campaign for ocean health, we can really play a part in helping to build the programme together. We can reach a diverse spectrum of the museum visiting public and global digital audiences. Together we can show how our maritime cultural heritage shapes the way that we think about ocean stewardship. We can be an impactful contributor to increasing public awareness and to supporting good choices by investors, consumers, and policymakers. With the launch of the United Nations Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, there's never been a better time to contribute lessons from the past toward these global efforts. The time is now. Thank you.
I know I've got a few questions at the end. All right, our next speaker, Joost Scherkenbrock, who is well known by many of us. Joost is currently director of the Hong Kong Maritime Museum, previously holding senior positions. Well, he headed up the Vancouver Maritime Museum and the Amsterdam National Maritime Museum.